Winter Storm Kate's impacts are ending, only lake effect snow left, but it's going to be quite heavy coming off of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. After that, we've got a temperature swing bringing a new storm system that you can see developing on your screen by the end of the week. I've got the details on the lake effect snow, that pattern flip, a series of storms, and more. If you don't live in the Great Lakes or the Northeast, I would skip ahead to around 1 or 2 minutes into the video, but let's break down this lake effect snowfall update. And the timing here is we've got very cold air and gusty winds coming off of Lake Erie and Ontario there. Jamestown, New York, going to get slammed by this, just northeast of Erie, PA as well. And then just south of Watertown, really going to be the two bullseye areas as a westerly flow comes in behind Winter Storm Kate. You can see some of the indications maybe have this briefly turning to a west-northwesterly flow as we head towards your Tuesday afternoon. That will help to bring in the snowfall band to shift it just a little bit further southward. That could bring areas like, say, Syracuse, as well as on over towards Utica into the mix. And then one more final band should push through towards around Thursday before it's all said and done. Now, there will be a little bit of lake effect snow going on in parts of Michigan. Traverse City may be picking up 4 inches just northeast of town, closer to 6 inches possible. Otherwise, though, right along that shore of Lake Michigan, around 1 to 4 inches overall occurring, closer to 2 to 3 for most communities. And then with your model snowfall in the northeast, right there coming off of in the parts of northeastern Ohio, Erie, PA region, on over towards Jamestown, New York, anywhere from 6 to 12 inches, maybe up to a foot in the Jamestown region. And then near Watertown, that's going to be where the big bullseye is coming off Lake Ontario. We could see some totals upwards of 1.5 feet of snowfall there. Definitely going to be doing some shoveling there by the end of this week. Now with your temperature anomaly swing, here we go for those of you all around the country here. We're going to see cooler than average temperatures pushing eastward. This is what's really helping to trigger that lake effect snow. Temperatures 10-20 degrees below where they should be in the east. The freezing line at night, very far south. Pretty much 80% of the country below average during the nighttime recently here. We are going to begin to see warmer than average air build on in from the plains here, though, as well as eventually from the south as we head over the course of the next few days. And this is actually going to play a major role in our next storm system, and I'll break that down in moments here. But you can see here we go towards our early Thursday morning. This is just a couple days out here, and we're going to see temperatures anywhere from 5 to 10 degrees above average. We'll see that rebound in the north central and towards the Great Lakes. In the mid-south as well, parts of Texas, Oklahoma, on over to Missouri as well as Arkansas. This entire central quarter of the country overall beginning to get above average, while areas in the east stay below average temporarily, and in the west it's a little bit below average, and I'll show you why that's going on in just a second as well. You can see warmer than average air continues to move eastward, and this is really going to be what's driving our next storm system. You can see that cooler air moving out of the Rockies. You can see warmer air heading on up into the Arklatex and towards the Ohio Valley. Once you get a southerly flow and then a westerly flow meeting it from the left side of the system, that's when you get a storm system, and this is going to be a classic system crossing the country here. And you can see how the warmer than average air will develop anywhere from 10 to 15 degrees above average, especially in the southeast ahead of it. And then we'll be 5 to 10 degrees below it. So I'm just really trying to show you here how these temperature anomalies will really play into this system. But for now, let's go ahead and take a look at that. I've got 937 subscribers right now. Thank you so much for all the recent support. If I could get to 1,000 subs by the end of the year or by the end of this week, it'd be really great for me. So if you'll go ahead and like and subscribe, that really helps me out. Moving on over now to tracking the first new storm with the Euro model. Again, you can see impacts moving on into parts of California with that system by our Wednesday, but overall, you're going to notice how the system is pretty weak at that point in its lifespan. The surface low, though, will eventually trek on over to parts of Texas and Oklahoma where it will begin to make an impact. Again, you can see pretty much nothing in the way of precipitation other than some lighter rainfall for parts of the southern Cal coastline. But you can see the surface low building there, even though no precipitation with it yet. Here we go, though. Once we make our way towards the end of the week, we see some wraparound snow in the Four Corners region in the higher elevations, but we also see a surface low into parts of Texas and Oklahoma. That's going to be the driving force for very heavy downpours, the chances of some, as well as the chance for some isolated severe weather here in the Arklatex region. Thursday night going into Friday, we see this set up and look like a very classic low by the time we go towards our early Friday morning. Thunderstorms along the southern end towards parts of New Orleans, Louisiana, through Jackson, Mississippi. On over, though, towards places like Paducah, Kentucky, southern Illinois, southeastern Missouri. These areas just getting some rain, but heavy rain at that could briefly cause some flooding. We see this system really begin to break on up as it moves on off towards the east. Not to say, though, that we couldn't still see some heavier showers through parts of the Carolinas, on up through the mid-Atlantic and into parts of the Northeast and all these areas that it heads eastward to from there. Also notice, don't want to leave you out there in the Pacific Northwest or the Four Corners, still seeing some leftover precipitation and a new system there back on off into parts of Washington and Oregon as well during that time frame. And then again, we begin to really see this initial storm system push off. So only a couple days really to deal with this one in its full force here. Will the trough associated with that system bring severe weather? We at least briefly see some sort of severe looking trough with some stronger winds in the mid levels. Overall, the ingredients don't look quite there, and the Storm Prediction Center is not outlining anything for the day 4 outlook as of this evening for your Monday. So right now for your Thursday night and into our Friday, I've only got a low end level 1 of 5 risk over parts of the Arklatex as well as the lower Mississippi River Valley. That doesn't mean that you should rule out the potential for an isolated tornado or a severe thunderstorm to get going in that line that we see Thursday night into Friday. But anyway, this is going to be just the start of a stormy pattern. Once that low departs, we get more systems to develop, and this is really the beginning of the El Nino influence that is expected to last all the way through the winter and into next spring. We see rainfall over parts of the Gulf Coast, moving into Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas, and these systems are really going to only impact the eastern third of the country overall, but look at how they do impact that area of the country with force, with heavy rain, maybe some gusty winds as well. Training of some of these storms along that southern jet stream could cause some isolated flooding. Also notice we'll be probably dealing with some flooding in the Pacific Northwest as continual precipitation also persists in that area. And we begin to see northeasterly push of this system. And notice how that moves on up into the mid-Atlantic. This is, by the way, this weekend heading towards early next week when that begins to occur. Eventually, we see this continue just heading in that direction, and we get maybe even another low to move through the Carolinas and mid-Atlantic before heading to the northeast. And this is now several days into December. This is Tuesday, December 5th. So my point being here is that we're going to begin to see a really active pattern that should last for about a week, and that's going to start midweek to late week this week, last through midweek as we head towards the first week of December, and especially there in the Pacific Northwest where things just don't look to let up at that point. So here's your rainfall equivalent precipitation through December 4th. I say equivalent. In some areas we could briefly see some frozen precip in the northeast or back in the mountains of the Pacific Northwest. Overall, though, the overwhelming majority of this precip will be falling as rain, and it could come in 2 to 4 inch totals from parts of eastern Texas and Oklahoma through Arkansas, Louisiana, on over to the Georgia, Carolina region there, and then on up into the northeast as well. I'm especially expecting the heaviest totals to come out of the Florida Panhandle through parts of southern Alabama and into southern Georgia, as well as parts of South Carolina, where isolated totals up to half a foot of rain cannot be ruled out with this system. Of course, back there in the Pacific Northwest, very heavy totals, upwards of 2 to 4 inches as well. Same deal if you're looking at the GFS model. Notice it does paint a brighter stripe of some precip there through the Ohio Valley with one of the first systems there, and that could bring 1 to 4 inches of rainfall primarily through parts of Illinois and Indiana with that scenario, seeing the 4-inch totals nonetheless. But in the southeast there, we could be looking at least 2 to 4 inches of rainfall as well as that El Nino influence kicks in. But that's all I got for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Again, help me get to my subscriber goal. If you enjoy accurate, easy to understand, and passionate forecasting, that's what I've got right here at One Nation Weather. Here are the credits, everyone. Have a blessed day, and that's it for this video. Have a great one.